Hello, Recheck Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
I'm John Humphrey.
We are going to talk about a special thing today. Fandoms.
Oh, good.
And the negative effects that can happen with it, toxicity, just our thoughts and opinions on this. At our Patreon, one of our top reward tiers is whatever video you request, we must definitely do and put up on the YouTubes. It's usually a reaction, and today is a rare case where a person named Michael B. Has a channel himself, Omni One Media. You should go check it out. Awesome reactions over there and reviews as well. And he specifically asked us to touch on this topic here, and it's something that we don't like. We might talk about every once in a while. Usually make a lot of sarcastic comments about or whatever. But it's not something that we will like ever do dedicated videos on or whatever. And I've seen like video essays about this subject, and I've seen
People complain on the internet.
I've seen people complain on the internet about stuff. I've heard a lot of different opinions about fandom in general. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is going to be an interesting discussion, especially after doing YouTube for several years now and dealing with many fandom communities.
Especially after
I have opinions about it.
Diving deep into the belly of the fandom beast. You know, engaging with it on a daily, weekly basis.
And we decided to do this podcast format and, riff format style for this. So, we don't have notes for this. I was originally planning on making notes. And I kind of just said to myself before making notes, no, I'm too tired and lazy. No, I said
like work.
That's too much. I don't want to prep. No, I was like, I feel like I can just come from the heart on this one. This is, to me, I was like, I'm not well versed. I'm like, that's not true. I've had to deal with so many exposure to so many kinds of fandom.
Oh, yeah.
Of putting my opinions out there and dealing with all kinds of toxicity. And I guess by going into this, I will say, I know I go on movie fights. I've been on there 5 times in the past year now, right? Or 6? I don't know. It doesn't matter. So I go on movie fights, and before I go into any of my opinions on any of these things, even though I love going on that show, even though I tend to do a pretty good job when I'm on that show, in real life, I suck at fighting people. And actually, I think I do, because I don't like it. I generally don't. I don't like fighting with you. I don't like fighting with my girlfriend. I don't like fighting with my brother. These are the main people I discuss movies with off camera. And in general, if I don't like going to a press screening and knowing that there's going to be people who probably have a different opinion, because I'm just not I don't believe in trying to tell people how they feel or think about something is wrong. And I know how to respectfully disagree. Yeah. I feel like that Movie Fights Championship one that I have with Dan Merle's a good example. People I think really like that because we were obviously not nasty towards each other. Yeah. Even though we're movie fighting, it was obvious that we respectfully disagree at the end of the day. And plus, you kind of have to bullshit your way through some things.
It's a game. Show, it's a game. There's a heightened energy that is expected.
I don't like dealing with social media. And I don't like dealing with comments. I don't. So as much as I love being on movie fights and doing a good job on there, I generally have an issue with the way how some elements of fandom community can be. And I don't want to break down. There's all big fandoms, like there's the Rick and Morty one, there's the BTS one, there's a wide variety of fandoms. Star Wars. And I'm not here to specifically nitpick any of those fandoms because they all have similar threads in the way they all form.
I mean, anything that can gather a fan base, there will be annoying evangelistic fans who just cram that down your throat all the time. It just happens.
Yeah.
It's been happening with things forever.
It's the way it's
with the religions.
I've heard that the most modern day fandom would have to be with actually like Sherlock Holmes. Because that started like late 1800s, and then that started the birth of like modern day fandom in a way, which eventually led into sci-fi territory.
So that was like the proto fandom,
the
original fandom.
Yeah.
Like people were just like,
where people started like having meetings and talking about it and creating things, building upon it.
Interesting. Fan fictions?
I think so. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. But I'm not here to like give a whole history
The
breakdown.
history of fandom.
History. What is fandom? How do you define
How
fandom?
long have people been interested in things together?
Yeah. Well, there's some things we specifically consider fandom, and then but I feel like with almost anything, if there's a fan base, there's a fandom for it. That's what fandom is.
Yeah, it's a bunch of people who share a common interest to a certain
Yeah.
extent.
I think personally, there's a lot of beautiful things about a fandom community, and I feel like overall there's probably more good than bad. And the common belief that I hear with people who speak out against toxicity of fandom communities is that negative voice is really the minority, and they're just very loud. You know, that's the common thing. I don't know if that's true. I feel like a lot of Star Wars fans don't like The Last Jedi. You know,
I think it depends on the debate, but I think there is an element of truth to that. I mean, we've often talked about like Yelp is, I feel like, the people more compelled to go voice their opinion are the people who have a negative opinion versus it's easier to take a positive opinion and go about your day.
While I feel like there's people who are I feel like there's a lot of love in this world. I also feel like a lot of those same people, and myself included at times, can be quite drawn to negativity. Not that I'm a negative person, but every once in a while, if I see a headline about something negative, whether it be people are upset about this or what did Trump do wrong today, you know, like there's that element in my mind that is like, I want to know, I want to read about this. I think the issue that occurs with fandom toxicity, and specifically what that means, is I've heard a thing about communication before that says, don't attack the person, attack the problem. And admittedly, I can sometimes be at fault for that, where lately, in the past couple of years, I am unintentionally attacking the person without realizing I'm attacking the person, when I should just stay focused on the problem. So then sometimes when I'm attacking the problem, I'm like, oh shit, I've been attacking the person. I need to dial it back and realize, no, I'm not.
You might lose the problem and lose the person and make the problem worse.
So I feel like the issue is actually within communication about disagreements, because we all have our own opinions.
Totally.
We all have our own values. We're all passionate. That's the whole thing that stems with fandom is a passion for whatever it is. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's even if we don't consider ourselves a creative type, that creative side in us is drawn to whatever this creative thing is, because that is calling into our creative intuitions. That is calling into our passionate things, whether it be for BTS K-pop or Supernatural, the television show. It's all factoring in to this.
Something that's resonant.
And I think the main issue is literally how we attack people and not the issue we have with what's been done. For example, I don't like the movie Glass, you know? Mm-hmm. And there's obviously been a fandom originated around Glass, that whole universe, Shyamalanaverse. And it might not be one of the most notable fandoms, but there is a fandom around it. Bottom line, I had a moment with that movie where I was like, fuck you, movie. But you will not, and I've even said that I feel like a lot of expectations were very much set because of things M. Night Shyamalan has said. Mm-hmm. But I have never gone out of my way to attack M. Night Shyamalan. I have never been like, screw you, stop making movies. You've lost it. I've attacked the movie. I've attacked the problems I've had with the movie. But I've never attacked M. Night Shyamalan as a human being or as a person. And I really feel like that's the main problem that we have with the toxicity element that occurs when we hate something in a movie or a show or whatever. When you don't like Kelly Marie Tran's character in The Last Jedi, so you attack her on social media when that's really undeserved. That's not fair. She does why?
It's uncalled for, and it's crossing over into a completely other conversation, which is ultimately what vexes me. I feel like the internet has done a fascinating thing, because before that, I mean, we had phones and stuff, but just like your range of socialization was just much smaller and much more confined to reality, the real world. Whereas now you can kind of see and hear everything, and and especially online, there is a lot of incentive to be hyperbolic and to have fun with the way that you write, which is not in and of itself a bad thing. But I do think that the big thing we're learning about right now is how we all communicate to each other in mass, because more so than ever before, we have this capability to communicate to anybody we want, kind of. And I think that's teaching us things about, the separation between, this has been in everybody's mouth lately, but like art and artists and things like that, and separation of our feelings towards something versus, how we interact with everybody in regard to those feelings. And the problem for me is I see like fandoms are built on passion, which is beautiful and problematic, because if anybody attacks something that you're passionate about, it's natural to get defensive and not just...
And to take it personal.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I had a brief exchange just yesterday on Facebook with somebody who hit us up.
I read it. This morning. And I was like, funny thing, we're talking about this today.
Yeah, I was like, and I don't know what it is about that guy. Like, for some reason...
this guy specifically just feels this need to keep messaging us.
Yeah, and
it's been months, and it's like, leave us alone.
and I'm not, I don't stay by the phone a lot of the day, just because it helps me focus to not be near the phone. But for some reason, this guy's messages always come in when I'm like right there, and for some reason he begins them in a way where I'm like, I have to read this for some reason. And he presented an argument that was basically like, you guys are just haters and you want to see such and such a property taken down and destroyed. You're idiots and fuck you guys, and all you love is this. And so I responded and I was like, actually, here are some facts about what we do, and here's my opinion and my point of view. And then I came back and was like, it's not your opinion, you're just a hater and you hate stuff. And so it created this fascinating moment where I was like, okay, I can see very clearly that this has nothing to do with me, other than hearing my opinion or our opinions cause this guy to react. But this is clearly about somebody who feels, hurt in some capacity, because that's what it really does seem to be about. And I feel like that's what we're all learning about right now, is that, passion around things, when people disagree with you, it does sometimes hurt, which is a weird thing, because it's not like it's it's not like it's even like a physical part of you. It's something that you're attached to, that you care about. But I don't know, the way people attack each other over the things that they're passionate about has gotten kind of out of control, because I feel like people have lost the just scale of everything. It's like, if it's a movie, there's no reason we should behave half the ways in which we do. If people are upset about Star Wars, that's fine. You can totally... It comes back to what you said. You can hate Glass, but there's absolutely no reason to go, tell M. Night Shyamalan to kill himself, because it's just a piece of art. Like,
or Ryan Johnson.
Or Kelly Marie Tran, or Will Poulter just recently.
The cast of the Ghostbusters reboot,
And that's the big whipping post for me personally, because Ghostbusters finally broke a straw for me, where that whole situation happened. And I like the original Ghostbusters. I watched it a ton growing up, and up until that point I was like, yeah, Ghostbusters, great, it's classic, blah blah blah. I'm excited that there will be more. And when that whole thing happened, it just made everything so ugly on both sides, because then everybody lost their sense. And I feel like with these passions that are so strong, it's like the art we love fills us up in a lot of ways, but it's also really easy to fly off a handle.
Well, I mean, it seems like we have a terrible communication problem in how to disagree. And we have a terrible way of listening, where we do selective listening. For example, it's like, if there's certain... See, I don't think there's a problem with fandoms. I think there's a problem with certain fans. That's the issue. It's the kinds of fans. If they love something and you only kind of like it, that interprets to them as... I'm not saying everybody. I said certain fans.
Yes.
If they love something and you kind of only like it, that interprets to them as you hate it.
Yeah.
And if they hate something and you kind of like it, it can interpret to you love them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just in the middle, and that's A-okay. Like, I was pretty nervous about putting out my opinion on Aquaman because I was just smack dab in the middle about that movie. And I didn't hate it by any stretch, nor did I love it. So I'm like, I just gotta find a way to articulate this. And surprisingly, there were some hate comments, I'm sure whoever that annoying ass dude who keeps messaging us probably saw that review and took that as you hate DC, when I'm like, no, if you stay till the end of my review, I flat out said I want a sequel and I want James Wan to return, and I mean that.
Well, that conversation, yeah, even in talking DC, because that there becomes this like brand adherence. I feel like where again, something you love.
That's what I mean. It's a choosing sides thing.
Yeah.
When I'm like, it doesn't need to be that. There can be a gray. I can tell you, I like the Ghostbusters reboot. It's nowhere near as good as the original. But that doesn't mean I prefer this. Really, like, geez,
Yeah, this just doesn't match the proportions of civilized reality, and like that conversation yesterday made me think, because the guy basically said like, you hate everything DC. I went out of my way to go, no, actually, there's a fair amount of things we like, even loved, just not these couple things, and there was that point of like, well, I love everything DC, and so I feel like people have trouble also being objective, and we all do it to some degree to everything, to things that we love. But I feel like people have trouble being objective sometimes and just looking at things for what they are. Like, I'm all for having passion over art, but a movie at the end of the day is just a movie.
It's just a movie.
It's just it's a story. It's an illusion.
It's a film, and there's like
fantasy.
5 more coming out next week.
Yeah, exactly. And so it does seem. I do wonder where that intensity level comes from, where this is so important to people that your consideration for the other people around you goes out the window.
Yeah.
Because
I can't stand the all or nothing. It's like you either completely disagree or you either completely agree. And honestly, it doesn't matter if you disagree or agree. You're allowed to have your own opinion, and you can even put out your opinion on why you disagree with that person. Yeah. But man, I can't. How many people have been like, you didn't like this, unsub, or you love this, unsub.
Yeah, people
like,
take it personally.
If I was like that at all with the amount of YouTubers I saw recommending Glass, like, this is the most recent movie, that's why I'm talking about. Like, I would have unsubscribed to Screen Junkies News. They were hardcore supporters of that movie. But I wasn't like, fuck you, Dan and Rob. I'm like, that's just their opinion, And like, who cares? It's so... Well, of course, they were doing a podcast. Someone's car alarm has to go off,
It's funny, we shot it at this time to maybe avoid some of those.
This time we're like, okay, it tends to be leaf blowers right outside. Let's shoot it this time. Okay, now, of course, someone's car alarm is going off, and this is unbelievably distracting. It's like doing a stand-up show, and there's like a flicker. I wouldn't know, but I've heard other comics talk about it.
Yeah.
Somehow it got louder.
It hurt us. They know.
Yeah, how did it get louder? I've never heard of that happening.
Be in a viral video.
It's just like, yeah, this is going to be viral for sure.
See, that's the thing that they always told us in like criticism and in writing in school. It's like, you don't need to establish that this is your feeling or that, it's an opinion or a take, because that's the conceit of whatever you're writing. However, in interacting just out in the world, I've come to find it like crucial to always kind of make sure people know that what you're trying to express is just an opinion, because I started to notice back in the day is like, what would bother me personally is just, it's a semantic thing, it's a small thing, but when people cast something aside as though it does just suck. Like when people, I feel like maybe people respond poorly to the lack of acknowledgement in the subjectivity of art, because when people get hyperbolic and they get passionate, it's easy to just trash a movie and be like, this is hot garbage. And that makes people kind of upset. And I get where that particular thing comes from, which is why, at least in my response to this all, I'm always like, I try to make it clear that this is just how I took it. This was my experience, and you are free to have your own different experience. Like, I get bummed out too when, last year, half the albums I was most anticipating got middling to negative reviews from the music critics I follow. Doesn't mean I didn't get my own enjoyment out of those albums. And at the time, I was like, oh, I wish they liked this. But to me, that's about the extent is, oh, I wish we agreed on this. That's a decent point,
I've never actually met someone who's actually pursuing, like consistently pursuing, not just I want to be a writer or I want to be an actor, I want to make films, I want to make comics. Not someone who just says that. I've never met someone who actually who has made it, is making it, or is pursuing it, who has this kind of behavior.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, you got to be able to play with others.
So it makes me wonder, because I honestly don't know who these people are that have such this strong. It's like their love for a thing has made it part of their identity and who they are. So they start feeling personally attacked when you disagree in any capacity for it. That it makes me wonder if they were active artists in their own endeavors, would this thing bother them as much? You know?
Yeah.
Because I've never personally, honestly, I might have met people who do that shit online, and I just have no idea that they do that. You know? Because a lot of times people hide. That's the thing. There's people that some of the most hateful comments don't even have a profile photo. You know?
Yeah, because you take that anonymity mask and feel free and comfortable to say and do a lot of things you wouldn't normally. And that's also very telling, and I feel like that's for everybody who does it to realize about themselves and to figure out, I guess. Because, yeah, I don't know, at the end of the day, there have just been so many situations, and I always go back to Ghostbusters, because, yeah, that crossed the line of, this is wholly unreasonable now. Like, we are being terrible to each other, and nobody's opinion is helping any of that. It's whether or not you think this is a good idea or a bad idea, everyone's behaving ugly. And that's the toxic power that scares me, kind of, because you can watch everybody lose their sense really fast.
Yeah, well, like I said at the very top, it goes right back to... It's totally okay to disagree, and it's totally okay to voice that disagreement. But it's a whole other thing to attack people, and that's my main issue with the specific negativity of fandom is the attacking of another human being. How many people have had suicide attempts because of being attacked on social media, or had to close themselves off from life because of it's like, guys, this isn't fucking life or death, man. It's a movie. It's a song. It's a music. It's a comic book. This is art, and we're all allowed to have our opinions. But quit attacking the fact that this artist actually made these people made something. It's and the insult. It's like with the reboots of like Ghostbusters. I personally, I don't have that feeling for Ghostbusters that other people apparently have.
Like it's a sacred text of some kind.
See, but some people do have that feeling with it, that it's a sacred text to the degree of like how they feel about Star Wars. Like some people feel about Star Wars, you know? I might not be able to see it, but at the end of the day, there are people who do, and I'm going to respect that. I don't care how much you love it. That is no right to attack individuals.
Yeah, I don't respect the behavior that inspires, and then that makes me go, you know what? It's not a sacred text.
Exactly. Like, then I find myself fucking attacking that because I'm like, well, Ghostbusters ain't it's a damn comedy movie, all right?
Yeah, it's like we can all agree on certain aspects of it, but
and now I'm losing sight of respecting the fact that you love this so much that there's a fandom for it because of just how malicious you're being to individual people out there.
But then that makes you wonder, is there a responsibility to go and check the view that this is a sacred thing?
Yeah.
You know, is it...
And also, I think a lot of this time with the fandom toxicity that can occur is the, like I said, a lot of my shit just boils down to a few things. Mm-hmm. Selective hearing. I know there will be people, whoever happens to listen to this, who are going to pick and choose what they want to hear about what we're saying. Yeah. You know, they're not going to hear the whole thing. They're going to be pick this, hone in on that. Pick this, hone in on that, you know, instead of going, well, actually, he made the the counterpoint to that.
Well, and that's a scary thing just about living in the now, because it's really hard to spit out a big picture that isn't micro-sized, you know? Like,
I mean, it's annoying. It's like with the comments that we see on YouTube, sometimes we could do a whole review, a trailer reaction, review it, or a movie review. Say like 99 things. And then let's say 100 things, get 99 of them right for whoever listened.
Yeah.
and then one thing, all the comments.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's really sad. Instead of just like really listening to it. And I think a lot of times we determine, like, as much as the reason I specifically singled out with M. Night Shyamalan putting expectations for that was because I really did believe he put out the expectations. But I feel like a lot of the time, expectation is just our own perspective that we have sort of created.
Yeah.
You know? And there's an argument made for that for what I did with Glass too. But a lot of times, it's this idea of expectation and not fulfilling what that individual specifically expected. So I'm going to attack the person who created this thing.
Yeah.
That for some reason they feel like has ruined their childhood or something like that. When people are like, the Ghostbusters reboot ruined my childhood. Like, I know there's gonna be people who listen to this and go, all you talked about were Ghostbusters and Glass. And like, I'm like, okay, but
there are plenty of other toxic
we're just
fandoms.
using them as the consistent examples to
I
break
love
something
Rick
down.
And Morty,
Yeah.
but there's a pretty toxic
There's a toxic fan base in Rick. Yeah.
Like,
honestly, hearing about the fandom of Rick and Morty has made me not want to get involved in Rick and Morty.
dude, the creators of the show were like, for the love of God, don't be terrible to McDonald's workers over this isn't even our thing. Like, it was on our show, but like, don't be terrible to people in real life just for our cartoon that you make. Like, and it's just interesting that this is such a chronic issue now, because
I feel like there's a lot of people. Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of people with a lack of identity, people with a lack of purpose.
There's that,
and they find their calling in this. That's why I brought it. That's why I brought up that point of people who I feel like who are pursuing. Those are people in either really going after what they have defined as their purpose in life. And I feel like the people without purpose have made is that we all have a need for identity. We all have a need for purpose. We all have a need for significance. We all have these human needs, and somehow people have found their needs through this.
Yeah. And you know, there's also just affection, just things are special to us, things are, you know, we hold dear and we give these values to. And
it's like when you start a YouTube channel, once it starts growing, once you're in growing phase, like, oh, it's growing, you're met with a lot of love. I've seen it with so many channels. When you start, like, even with this channel, when it started off growing, I remember like fucking discovering the Raid, and then I did the vampire movie. I forget what it's called, but the vampire one. Something like it was like the first day. There was like 500 subscribers in a day, and I was like, "Whoa! I did this video," and there's like nothing but love and love and love.
Vampire Academy.
Yeah. And then after a while, oh, now there's hate, you know. Yeah. And that's just the thing. When anything grows, it is this like this hate comes out of it, and that's to be expected. But yeah, my main problem is attacking people, the selective hearing, and lack of open-mindedness. You know, like that's the thing.
Well, and we live in a society that reinforces the idea that you're supposed to have one conclusion and it shouldn't change. You know,
if you're a YouTuber who's doing a review saying, "If you like this movie, you're fucking stupid," then that person should be attacked. I think like you've set yourself up to be attacked at that point. But if they're not going after the ones who like it, why? Like, it is mind-boggling, and it's funny how this conversation of toxicity and fandom has become such a topic in and of itself. Just how dark it is, and what social media has brought out of us.
Well, because there's that too. I mean, I feel like now we live in this time where everything is on demand and everything is bite-sized and everything is curated into a feed with an algorithm to sculpt what it looks like to you. And so, like, I feel like people's minds now more than ever are just a bit noisier and more fractured. And like, for me, I already struggle with the perception of time, but as technology has gotten better and the push in culture has been towards quick and easy so much, time feels all the more fragmented, and yeah, I feel like that further reinforces this knee-jerk thing that happens when people like check into an opinion for a couple minutes, hear one thing, and then fly off the handle without waiting to hear the rest of it, because I feel like just the bubble we live in now incentivizes you to do that, because everything wants your attention. Attention is like the main commodity now. And yeah, it's intense in a way that shouldn't be, because we're all just logging online to talk to each other and congregate over the stuff we like, and for some reason that has become like pressured, and I feel like it also cuts the other way too. I feel like toxic fandom isn't just ugly. I feel like we can lose ourselves by being so into something or so hyped about stuff that we kind of can lose just a clear-minded view on it, as well. And so, yeah, I don't know. I wonder where I feel like this comes from a multitude of places. Partly, yeah, is issues about identity, or just people who maybe feel very alone and have these, it's like art, especially films, move us. They bring us emotional responses, and they're populated by people, so they are a very human experience in a way. And so I get how for somebody who maybe that is one of the bedrocks of their life, how that could root so intensely to the point that if they hear boo about it, they're going to attack and defend. Like, I get it. I feel like we need to all kind of... I feel like what social media and then the future is teaching us right now is the ways in which we all haven't grown up, and the ways in which we need to kind of force ourselves to come to a certain middle ground about things, to kind of see soberly to a degree, because it's like social media and phones and everything, they take communication and interaction and make it a game. And so I feel like we're all kind of warped right now, and that only makes this conversation worse. It's like there was toxic fandom before this. It was just more isolated. And now you can kind of spray it everywhere. Yeah. And it's a learning experience that I think we're all kind of figuring out. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Dislike this video and leave a hate comment. And we won't read any of it.
No. Or if you made it to the end and you listened to everything, I don't know, go hug somebody.
Yeah.
Go find somebody you disagree with and reassure them that you still like them as a person. Mm-hmm.
That's why I like our patrons, because there are many people who disagree with me about Bohemian Rhapsody and Daredevil Season 3. But none of them attacked me as an individual,
Yeah, because odds are we're just not all going to like all the same stuff. Yeah. Just, I don't know. That's just a
subjectivity of art, people.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And there's even a subjectivity in what we call art.
Yeah.
But there's an art to everything, even a Ghostbusters reboot.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, my main thing is just I try to make it very clear when I speak now that this is just my experience of the thing and this is my opinion about it. Because I think ultimately that is the very simple linchpin, is people throw out hot takes and opinions as though they are fact, which immediately, especially in writing, causes everybody to walk by and go, hey, wait a minute, and then what could have been a discussion turns into a battle.
Fair. All right, guys. Well, you can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Click that notification bell. And check us out on Patreon. Thank you, Michael B., for requesting this. Interesting to get our opinion out there about it. The few hundred people that are listening to this, thanks for listening along. And go check out Michael B.'s channel, Omni One Media. He's also a fantastic gentleman who has had long, long conversations with me and still continues to this day. He's a very supportive, humble human being. And he will be a huge internet personality one of these days. Much love, be safe, and be kind to everyone out there, will ya?